get started, what do you think was the most challenging Tolkien material to read to sort of get you guys back into portraying Elrond and Gil-galad for the season?
Well, it just depends how deep you want to go in terms of reading books.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
mean, if you want to go
how
down,
dense do you want to
yeah,
wade through?
if you want to read the opening chapters of the Silmarillion,
Ugh.
yeah, get ready. And then if you want to go even deeper, start reading Christopher Tolkien stuff, and then histories of Middle Earth and all that stuff. And that's like,
You need like notes in the margins to
you really do.
keep it straight.
That's like scraps of paper, on a napkin. He wrote some idea, and then they put it in, and
Yeah, and then 4 pages of what he surmises from a sentence, and then he returns
yeah,
to it.
yeah.
But it's worth it. But it is a bit like reading Leviticus,
I
Second Corinthians.
Oh, yeah, I've definitely tried exploring so much new material in this series. And on character-specific questions, for you, Robert, how do you think Elrond's childhood trauma with the Silmarils, Elwing, and the rest of what's going on in his storyline informed his opinions on the Elven rings?
Yeah, definitely. Great question. Um, I spoke a lot about this with Charlie Edwards in the first season. Think about Celebrimbor, Elrond in a room, never met before, and there's Feanor's hammer in between them.
Sure.
And remember speaking to Charles about like how Celebrimbor would feel about that, how Elrond would feel about that, the history being, that we all have, the sort of familial connections and stuff like that. Um, it is an interesting thing to think about. But yeah, he's a studier of history. He knows the histories better than anybody else. And so he would be wary of something that seems resonant of the Silmarils. Yeah, that was definitely something that I thought about. And his past in general, as I've said this loads of times in the first season, if your family saves the world, it's sort of a lot to,
Got a lot to live up.
yeah,
Big shoes.
yeah,
Big pointy shoes.
big shoes to fill. So yeah, but love that question. Thank you.
A little bit furthermore, do you think the memory of his mother had any impact on his decision to sort of make the jump that he did in episode one?
No, I have read about this actually. I think it's an interesting comparison. Um, uh, I didn't think about it at the time. I didn't think about Elwing in that moment, but I've read a few fan things about the sort of correlation between the two things, which I think is interesting. But it's not something that was actively on my mind when I did it. But
You're mostly trying not to break your neck.
mostly, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I think that's what you were thinking. Land on the pad.
yeah, yeah. Otherwise, game over.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I think to speak more broadly though, Elwing and and his dad, they're always on his mind and they're always governing him. And we always talk about these moments, and I'd love to get more moments in where there's my dad, he's up there. How do you engage with that? It's all of that history is constantly surrounding him. But more to come.
Definitely. And seeing all that history play out for you, Benjamin, Vilya has given Gilgalad visions of the future from in one of the previous episodes. Do you think at that specific moment he saw his own future as well?
Uh, Unfortunately, yes, I do. I think
That's interesting.
that there is something beautifully melancholic about the king, and that he continues to fight against what is seemingly inevitable, and that he will cling on to any small grain of hope. But I think something that gives him grace and poise is a level of prescient acceptance, that he's so old and so experienced that he is largely frustrated by the resurrection of evil, but he's experienced it and accepts the inevitability of it. So I think that it's one of the beautiful things about the king is that in spite of the seemingly futile nature of existence in Middle Earth, he still finds space for hope and love and the effort to unify the peoples of Middle Earth. Yes, I don't know that he specifically sees it, but I do think there's a part of him that realizes on some larger level Elrond is correct, and that his narrative is winding down, and that he is forever cracked in a way. And there's something beautiful about him in that he accepts it and still pioneers forward.
Definitely. And
For
I
in
just
service of Middle Earth. That it's not, oh no, I'm going to die, but it's what can we save? Who can we save? And how can we defeat evil this time with the time that we have remaining? So great question, and yes.